Hi guys, so here is your lesson for Monday, April 27th, and we're continuing with our factoring unit. So today we're going to learn a different method of factoring expressions. So we call this method the AC factoring method, and you'll see why that's true in a second. Okay, just to review, let's review some of our nomials. So we talked about this earlier in the school year. Okay, a monomial is one term. Okay, such as 3 or 2x or negative 5x to the third. Those are all one term separately. Okay, a polynomial is two or more terms. So things like 2x plus 1, that's two terms. We could do 4x to the third minus 8x squared plus 2x minus 7. That's four terms, okay? Anything with two or more terms is a polynomial, okay? And two types of polynomials. We have a binomial, which is just two terms. So something like, I don't know, 3x to the fourth minus 1. That's two terms only. And a trinomial is three terms. 3x squared minus 4x plus 10. Three terms. Okay, three separate terms. So today, what we're going to focus on when we do the AC factoring method is just trinomials. Okay, in order to do the AC factoring method, we have to have a trinomial, three terms. So again, just to review, the standard form for a quadratic function, okay, is three terms. So what we're really going to be looking at today is our A. We're going to look at what A equals. We're going to look at what B equals. And we're going to look at what C equals. Okay, we're just going to take a look at what we call the coefficients. Remember, the numbers in front of the variables. So, just to recap, to use the AC method, we must have a trinomial, which is three terms. Okay, and the quadratic function has three terms. Each one you can clearly see. Here's one term, here's another term, and here's the third term. Three separate terms, and we're going to be looking at the coefficients of those terms. So here's the first rule. When we say AC, we mean A times C. Okay? So when A times C is positive, and when I mean AC, when we take our A and we multiply it by C, when our AC is a positive number, both signs in the parentheses are the same sign as the B. Okay? So if I'm looking at my expression, okay, and I take my A and I multiply by C and I get a positive number, and my B is also a positive number of my coefficients, both signs in my factoring process are positive. As opposed to when we multiply A times C and we get a positive number again, but B is negative, so positive number, B is negative, both signs in our factoring is negative. Okay, and we're going to look at some examples, and this is going to make more sense in 1 second. So, let's look at some examples. Okay, example 1. Factor each trinomial using the AC method. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, I have three terms here, right? Let's check. I have my first term, my second term, and my third term. Okay, so I always have A is first. So if there's no number in front of the variable, remember we can put a 1. So A is 1. My B is 9, which leads me to my C, which is 20. Okay, so Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our numbers. We want to multiply a times c. A times c. So a is 1 times c is 20. 1 times 20 gives me 20. So, because a times c is positive, we know that both terms in my factoring, in my parentheses down here, are going to be the same sign as b. So since b is 9 and it's positive, we know that both terms are positive. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a plus and a plus, leaving some space for my numbers in between the signs. Okay, now I got to figure out what goes in between those signs. So here's the rule. I take my a. Okay, my a is x squared. And I figure out what are my factoring. I'll put a is x squared. What times what is going to give me x squared? Well, x times x gives me x squared. So I'm going to put that as my first two terms. Then I'm going to take whatever I got for a times c, which was 20, and I'm going to factor it. What are all the factors of 20? And remember, if you don't know what the factors of 20 are, you can go into GeoGebra and you can type in 20 divided by x. Enter. I go to my table of values. I go from 0 to 20. Okay? And I look for all the whole numbers. So we have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, 5 and 4. I don't need to repeat numbers. 4 and 5 and 5 and 4 are the same number pairs. So I'm going to go back to my work. I have 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5, and that was it. Now the tricky part. I need to select a pair of numbers that are going to give me 9, your b, when I add them. So 1 plus 20 gives me 21. 2 plus 10 gives me 12. 4 plus 5. Okay, since we know we have two addition signs, we know it's going to be a sum. So 4 plus 5 is going to give me 20. So that worked. Or sorry, 4 plus 5 is going to give me 9. So we know that number pair works. And that's your answer. X plus 4 times x plus 5. And if you wanted to check, you can always go back and do the opposite and you multiply them. Okay, x times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 5 is 20. When you combine your like terms, you get x squared plus 9x plus 20, which is the same thing we had in our original equation, our original expression. Okay, example 2. Again, we take our coefficients from a, b, and c. My a is 1. My b is negative 10. My c is 21. Okay, I'm going to multiply a times c. My a is 1 times my c is 21. Well, 1 times 21 gives me 21. Okay, since AC is positive, I know that both signs in the parentheses are going to be whatever the sign of b is. B is a negative 10, so we know that both signs are going to be negative. So I'm going to put negative, negative. And now I have to fill in the rest of the parentheses. So I take my a, which is x squared, right? My a is x squared, and I factor. We know that x times x equals x squared, so I know x and x. And then I'm going to take my AC, which is 21, and I'm going to list out all the factors of 21. And if you don't know, you can go to GeoGebra and type in 21 divided by x. So we have 1 times 21, and we have 3 times 7. Now, which of these pairs is going to give me negative 10? Okay, we know it's a sum because anytime we have same signs, we add. So really, we're taking negative 3 and negative 10. Is that going to equal, or sorry, negative 7? Negative 3 minus 7 gives us negative 10. If you don't know, go to GeoGebra. It's a tool, guys. So that works. So we have x minus 3, x minus 7. and that's done. That's fully factored. And if you wanted to check, you can multiply them and see if you get your original expression. Okay, now what happens when we multiply a times c and it's not positive, it's negative? So when a times c is a negative number, we use different signs in the parentheses. Okay, the sign of b doesn't really matter in terms of the signs inside the parentheses. It just tells us which factor is positive and which factor is negative. So the order of the numbers is going to matter, where you put the numbers inside the parentheses. Okay? So look, in both situations it's the same. A times c is negative, you get a negative and a positive. Okay, let's look at some examples. So again, we take each coefficient. My a is 1. My b is positive 2. My c is negative 35. I'm going to multiply. A is 1 times c is negative 35. 1 times negative 35 gives me negative 35. Okay, right off the bat, I see that AC is negative. So I know that we have different signs. So I'm going to put one positive and one negative. Okay, and I'm going to write my B as 2. So here's where the B comes into play here. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time to figure out what numbers to put inside the parentheses. I take my A, which is x squared, and I know that x times x gives me x squared, so I'm going to put that first, x and x. Now, my AC is negative 35. Again, what are the factors of 35? Type it into GeoGebra. 1 times 35 gives me 35. And we also have 5 times 7 gives me 35. Now, you need to figure out which number pair here gives me 2 when I subtract them, the difference. And we know it's a difference because we have one positive and we have one negative number here. So, I'm going to try both ways. Positive 5 minus 7 gives me negative 2. And then the other way, positive 7 minus 5 gives me positive 2. Well, we're looking for a positive 2, so it has to be this one here. So we know that it's a positive 7, so we're going to put 7 in the positive spot, and we know it's a negative 5. We put 5 in the negative spot. That's fully factored. Okay, again, you can multiply to check your answer. Example 4. Okay, take your coefficients. My A is 1, my B is negative 5, my C is negative 66. And I multiply A times C. 1 times negative 66 gives me negative 66. Because AC is negative, I know that we have different signs. So I'm going to put a positive and I'm going to put a negative. Okay, my B is negative 5. Now, let's figure out what goes inside the parentheses. I take my A, which is B squared. I know that B times B gives me B squared, so I have B and I have B. I take my AC, which is negative 66, and I write out the factors of negative 66. We have 1 and 66. 2 times 33 is 66. 3 times 22 is 66. And 6 times 10 gives me 66. Now, which pair here, when we subtract them, remember, because we're going to have a positive and a negative number, different signs we subtract, is going to give me negative 5. So, 1 minus 66, that's not going to do it. 2 minus 33, nope. 3 minus 22, nope. 6 minus 10, that looks like it might do it. Let's check. So 6 minus 10 gives me negative 5. Oh, that looks like it works. Let's check the opposite way. 10 minus 6 gives me... Oops, I'm sorry. Made a mistake here. Here's my mistake. Sorry. 6 times 11. Not 10. 6 times 11 gives me 66. So I take my 6 and my 11, and I do 6 minus 11, gives me negative 5. That looks like it works. Let's just check the other way. 11 minus 6 gives me positive 5. Well, we want negative 5, so we know it has to be this combination here. So we have a positive 6, so 6 goes in the positive spot, and a negative 11. So 11 goes in the negative spot. So we have b plus 6 and b minus 11, and that's fully factored. Alright, we'll do 2 more examples, combining so you can see the difference between positive and negative AC. Okay, so this is going to be both a positive or a negative AC. Let's check. So example 1. I have A equals 1, B equals 10, C equals 24. Okay, I'm going to multiply my A times my C. My A is 1, my C is 24. 1 times 24 gives me 24. Okay, my B is 10. So, because AC is positive, remember we know both signs have the same sign as the B, which is positive. So both signs are positive. So I'm going to go down to my parentheses. I'm going to make them. I'm going to put positives in both spots. So now I go and I figure out what do I put there. Well, my first term is t squared. T squared is the same thing as t times t. So I have t and t. I put a little squiggle on my t so it doesn't look like a plus. And then I take my AC. My AC is 24. Okay, and I write out the factors. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. And that's it. And we need to figure out which pair here is going to give me positive 24 when I add them. Or sorry, positive 10 when I add them. Okay, it's which pair gives me the B when I add them. So, what is going to give me 10? 1 plus 24 is not 10. 2 plus 12 is not 10. 3 plus 8 is not 10. Oh, 4 plus 6 is 10. So I know that's my pair here. So t plus 4 times t plus 6. And the last one, we'll do in blue. A equals, B equals, C equals. A equals 1, B equals negative 3, C equals negative 4. I multiply my A times my C. 1 times negative 4 gives me negative 4. Okay, we automatically know that AC, because it's negative, we're going to have different signs. So I'm going to put different signs in here. And my B is negative 3. So now I got to figure out what is going to go inside the parentheses. Well, my A is x, so we know that x squared is x times x. X and x. My AC is negative 4. So what are the factors of 4? 1 and 4, and 2 and 2. So out of those two number pairs, which one, when we take the difference, because we have a positive and we have a negative number, is going to give me negative 3? So 1 minus 4, well, that gives me negative 3. Let's try the other way. 4 minus 1 is 3. We want negative 3, so we know it has to be this number pair. The 1 is positive and the 4 is negative. So I'm going to put the 1 in the positive spot and the 4 in the negative spot. So my answer is x plus 1 times x minus 4. Alright guys, that's it for today. I know this might be difficult. Just give it your best shot. Let me know if you have any questions. See you guys soon. Bye.